Kai was 24 years old. He worked in a small coffee shop near the river. He lived alone in a tiny apartment with old walls and broken lights. People thought he was quiet because he wanted peace. But the truth was different. Kai stopped talking too much after his father left him and his mother died in the hospital 3 years ago. Since then he only worked and slept and waited for another day to end. He did not hate life. He just did not know how to love it anymore. One rainy evening a man entered the coffee shop. He wore a black coat and his hair was wet from the rain. His eyes looked tired, not the normal kind of tired, the kind that stays in a person for years. Kai walked toward him and asked what he wanted. Hot chocolate, the man said softly. Kai nodded and prepared the drink. When he placed the cup on the table, the man suddenly smiled a little. Thank you. His voice was calm and warm. Kai felt strange for a second. He quickly looked away. That night the man stayed in the shop until closing time. Before leaving he asked, "What is your name?" "Kai." "And yours?" "Elias." Elias smiled again and left into the rain. Kai watched him through the window until he disappeared from the street. For some reason the empty shop felt colder after he left. Elias came back the next day, and the next day after that. Slowly it became normal for Kai to see him sitting near the window every evening. Sometimes Elias read books. Sometimes he just stared outside silently. Kai wanted to ask many things but he never did. Still they started talking little by little, about music, about movies, about food they hated when they were children, small things, safe things. One night the electricity in the shop suddenly went out because of the storm. Kai sighed and searched for candles. Elias laughed softly from the darkness. "Why are you laughing?" Kai asked. "Because you look cute when you are angry." Kai froze for a moment. His ears turned red. Elias realized what he said and quickly looked away. "Sorry." Kai did not answer. But later that night he smiled alone while washing cups. It was the first real smile he had in months. Weeks passed. Winter slowly arrived. One evening Kai closed the shop early because snow started falling heavily. When he stepped outside he saw Elias waiting near the street lamp. "Why are you still here?" Kai asked. "I wanted to walk you home." Kai stared at him silently. Nobody had said something like that to him before, not in a long time. So they walked together through the snow-covered streets. Kai noticed Elias always walked slightly closer to the roadside, as if protecting him without saying it directly. When they reached the apartment building, Kai finally asked, "Why do you always come to the coffee shop?" Elias looked at him for a few seconds before answering. "Because it feels less lonely when you are there." Kai felt his chest tighten painfully. He understood that feeling too well. Before going upstairs he quietly said, "Thank you for walking with me." Elias smiled softly and nodded. That night Kai could not sleep at all. Slowly they became part of each other's lives. Elias started helping Kai close the shop every night. Kai started cooking dinner for both of them sometimes. One evening they sat on the apartment floor eating noodles from the same bowl because Kai only had one clean bowl left. Elias suddenly started laughing. "What now?" Kai asked while looking annoyed. "Nothing. I just never thought I would feel happy doing something this simple." Kai looked down quietly. Then he whispered, "Me too." Silence filled the room after that. But it was not uncomfortable. It felt warm, safe, like both of them finally found somewhere to rest. One night Kai woke up because of thunder. He walked into the kitchen to drink water and froze when he saw Elias sitting on the floor near the balcony door. Elias was shaking badly. His breathing sounded broken. Kai immediately walked closer. "Elias, what happened?" Elias looked up slowly. His eyes were full of fear. "Nightmares again," he whispered. Kai sat beside him silently. He did not know what to say, so he simply held Elias' hand carefully. Elias looked shocked for a second. Then his fingers slowly held Kai's hand back tightly. "I used to think I would die alone someday," Elias whispered while staring at the rain outside. Kai felt pain in his chest hearing those words. He quietly answered, "Then do not leave me alone either." Elias turned toward him slowly. His eyes looked dangerously soft. For a second Kai thought Elias might kiss him, but instead, Elias only rested his forehead against Kai's shoulder, and Kai stayed there with him until morning came. Later, Kai learned the truth about Elias. Before moving to the city, Elias used to be engaged to a woman named Claire. She died in a car accident 2 years ago. Elias blamed himself every day because they fought right before the accident happened. "I told her not to come after me that night," Elias said quietly one evening while sitting near the river. "But she came anyway." Kai listened silently. Elias' voice sounded empty when he continued speaking. "Sometimes I think if I never met her, she would still be alive." Kai suddenly grabbed his hand tightly. "Stop saying that." Elias looked surprised. Kai's eyes slowly filled with tears. "You cannot keep destroying yourself forever because of one terrible night." Elias stared at Kai quietly for a long time. Then he whispered, "Why do you care about me this much?" Kai's heart started beating painfully fast. "Because He stopped talking immediately. Fear entered his chest suddenly. Elias looked at him carefully. Kai quickly stood up and walked away toward the bridge. He hated himself for almost saying the truth out loud. Because if Elias rejected him, he knew he would break completely. That night Kai avoided Elias completely. He pretended to clean tables until Elias finally left the coffee shop quietly. After closing time, Kai sat alone in darkness for almost an hour. He felt stupid and scared and angry at himself. Suddenly the shop door opened again. Kai looked up in shock. Elias walked inside slowly. "Why did you come back?" Kai whispered. "Because you ran away from me," Elias answered softly. Kai looked down immediately. Elias walked closer until he stood right in front of him. Kai could smell rain and smoke on his clothes. "Look at me," Elias said quietly. Kai slowly raised his eyes. Elias looked nervous for the first time since they met. "Were you trying to say that you love me?" Kai breathing stopped. He wanted to lie. He wanted to laugh and say no, but he was too tired to hide anymore, so he nodded silently. Elias closed his eyes for a second like the answer hurt him somehow. Kai's chest started aching immediately. "Sorry," Kai whispered while stepping back. "Forget I said anything." But before he could move further, Elias suddenly grabbed his wrist gently. Kai looked up in shock. Elias' eyes looked full of fear and longing at the same time. "I do not know how to love someone correctly anymore," Elias whispered painfully. "But every day I wait to see you. Every day I think about your smile. Every night I feel scared of losing you too." Kai felt tears fall from his eyes instantly. Elias carefully touched his face, then kissed him softly. It was not a passionate kiss. It felt sad and desperate and gentle all at once. Kai held Elias' coat tightly while kissing him back. For the first time in years, both of them felt alive again. After that night, things slowly changed between them. Elias started staying at Kai's apartment more often. Sometimes they slept on the couch together while watching old movies. Sometimes Kai woke up in the middle of the night and found Elias staring at him quietly. "What are you looking at?" Kai asked once while half asleep. Elias smiled sadly and answered, "Something I thought I lost forever." Kai never knew how to respond to words like that, so he simply moved closer and rested against Elias' chest. Elias held him carefully like he was afraid Kai would disappear too. Months passed peacefully. For the first time, Kai started dreaming about the future again. Small dreams, a bigger apartment, a cat, maybe, morning coffee with Elias every day. Simple things. Things that suddenly felt possible. But happiness frightened Kai sometimes, because every good thing in his life had disappeared before. One evening, while cleaning the shop, he quietly asked Elias, "Will you leave someday too?" Elias immediately looked hurt hearing that question. "Why would you ask that?" "Because everyone leaves eventually," Kai whispered. Elias walked toward him slowly, then held his face gently. "Listen to me carefully. I cannot promise life will never hurt us again, but I promise I will never leave you by choice." Kai wanted to believe him more than anything, so he nodded quietly and kissed Elias softly. 3 weeks later, everything broke apart. Kai finished work early that evening because of heavy snow. He called Elias many times but received no answer. At first he thought Elias was busy, but deep fear slowly started growing inside him. Then finally his phone rang. An unknown number. Kai answered quickly. The voice on the other side spoke calmly. "Is this Kai? Your number was listed as emergency contact. There has been an accident." Kai felt the world disappear around him instantly. When Kai arrived at the hospital, his hands were shaking so badly he could barely walk. He found Elias unconscious in a hospital bed with blood near his forehead and bruises across his body. Kai slowly sat beside him and held his cold hand tightly. "Please wake up," he whispered repeatedly. For hours Kai stayed there crying silently beside him. He realized then how deeply he loved Elias. It felt terrifying, because losing Elias would destroy every part of him completely. Around midnight, Elias finally opened his eyes weakly. Kai immediately leaned closer. Elias looked confused for a second before whispering softly, "Why are you crying?" Kai started crying even harder hearing his voice. "Idiot," he whispered while holding Elias' hand against his forehead. "You scared me so much." Elias weakly smiled and whispered, "Sorry." Kai shook his head immediately. "Never apologize for surviving." Elias stared at him quietly after hearing those words. Then tears slowly appeared in his own eyes too. Recovery took months. Kai stayed beside Elias through everything. Through nightmares, through panic attacks, through days Elias could barely stand without pain. Sometimes Elias apologized for being weak, and every single time Kai answered the same way. "You stayed alive for me. That is enough." One night during recovery, Elias suddenly asked, "Why did you choose me?" Kai looked confused. "What do you mean?" Elias' eyes looked full of insecurity. "There are better people than me. People without scars. People without so much pain inside them." Kai slowly moved closer and rested his forehead against Elias' forehead. "I did not fall in love with you because you were perfect. I fell in love with you because when I met you for the first time I felt less alone." Elias closed his eyes immediately, like those words hurt him deeply in a beautiful way. Then he quietly cried against Kai's shoulder for a long time. Spring slowly arrived after the long winter. Flowers started appearing beside the river again. One morning Kai opened the coffee shop and found Elias waiting outside with nervous eyes. "What happened?" Kai asked immediately. Elias took a deep breath before speaking. "Come with me somewhere after work today." Kai agreed quietly. That evening Elias took him to the river where they first walked together during winter. Sunset colors reflected across the water softly. Kai looked around confused. Then Elias suddenly held both his hands tightly. Kai's heart started beating fast instantly. I spent years thinking my life ended after losing Claire, Elias said quietly. Then I met you, and slowly you taught me how to breathe again. Kai's eyes slowly filled with tears. Elias smiled shakily before continuing. I do not know what the future will look like. I only know I want you in every part of it. Kai could barely breathe hearing those words. Then Elias whispered softly, stay with me for the rest of my life. Kai started crying immediately before nodding again and again. Elias laughed softly through his own tears and pulled Kai into his arms tightly. That evening near the river they kissed while sunset disappeared behind the city. And for the first time neither of them felt afraid of tomorrow anymore. Years later, people in the neighborhood always smiled when they saw Kai and Elias together. Sometimes they walked beside the river holding hands quietly. Sometimes they argued over stupid things in grocery stores. Sometimes they sat in the coffee shop after closing time while listening to rain outside. Life was still difficult sometimes. Pain did not disappear magically. There were still nights filled with fear and old memories and sadness. But now they carried those things together, and somehow that made surviving easier. One rainy evening Kai rested his head against Elias' shoulder and whispered softly, thank you for not leaving me. Elias kissed his forehead gently before answering, I was never trying to escape from you. I was trying to find my way back to life. And you were waiting for me there the whole time. Outside the rain continued falling softly across the city, but inside the small coffee shop two broken people quietly loved each other with everything they had left. And for them that was enough. The end. Thank you for watching *.